I've been in community and social media management in some capacity in the video games industry for over 10 years. I started off my career in games a little differently than most people do. In 2013, I was working at a warehouse in Nashville, Tennessee, which essentially involved freezing my butt off in the winter and then coincidentally sweating it off in the summer. One day on a break, I saw a Facebook post from Gearbox Software saying that they were looking to hire a new community manager. I thought to myself, I can figure out how to do that. Famous last words, am I right? So it was with this completely unearned sense of confidence that I updated my resume and asked my brother-in-law, who was then and still is in the industry, if he wouldn't mind looking it over for me. His feedback was pretty sharp, but also super valuable. This role was a long shot for me. I needed to stand out. The only hope I had was leaning into my passion for Borderlands and hoping they noticed me. I went to the craft store and bought a wooden box and a bunch of paint and set about making the first thing that popped in my head that might get me their attention. A loot chest. Any of you who have played a Borderlands game will know what I'm talking about. Big, red, and glorious. I used my cell phone to snap some in-game shots and glue them to the inside of the box. For the resume itself, I completely redid my vanilla Word doc resume in Photoshop. This resume had it all. Borderlands and Gearbox fonts, a bright red to black gradient so loud you could use it to signal ships, and of course, a little blood splatter. Not real blood, don't worry. I packed up this twisted little art project and sent it over to Gearbox. A week later, I called to see if it had arrived okay. When I told the receptionist my name and how I'd sent a loot chest resume the week before and just wanted to make sure that it arrived okay, her response, "That was you?" I laughed and she promised to let the HR director know that I called. The next day, said HR director called me back and we chatted for a few minutes. We ended the call with her asking if I'd be interested in having a call with the marketing team, which of course I was. That call went well, and before I knew it, I had been invited to fly down to Dallas, Texas for an in-person interview. What? At this point, I was fully prepared for the whole thing to fall apart, which would have been fine because I was getting to take this cool trip to visit my favorite game studio and on their dime. The trip was amazing, and when I got back home, I was on cloud nine. Unfortunately, but not surprisingly, I did not get that job. But the team had apparently liked me enough to give me a contract role. I began working as a community contractor for Gearbox Software in 2014, and after a year and a half of grinding, finally joined the team full-time in 2016. While I was at Gearbox, I really got a chance to cut my teeth on some amazing projects. Borderlands the pre-sequel, Battleborn, and Borderlands 3, just to name a few. I learned how to run brand and product social channels, how to triage major issues, how to work industry events, and a whole lot more. Most of all, I learned how to interact with the community and how to be the conduit between them and the internal team. In March of 2019, I joined GameStop to manage their brand social channels and set them on a new strategic path forward by adopting a more conversational tone of voice and focusing on more engaging content. Then, in late 2021, Tencent recruited me to join their team as a senior community manager, which I did in May of 2022. At Tencent, my role was a lot more high level, focusing on things like global strategy and helping to lead an internal team, as well as 6 regional teams around the globe in executing the strategies I had created. That brings us to the present. Unfortunately, in May of this year, I was laid off along with several other members of my team, and I've been on the job hunt ever since. Just like many of you, I'm navigating the current job market in gaming the best way I can, one day at a time. And that's where this podcast comes in. I know, these days it seems like everyone has a podcast, and they seem to get people, well, celebrities of some sort usually, in trouble more often than not. Don't worry, I've been podcasting on and off for much of the time I've been in video games now. So I'd like to think I'm capable of producing a good show. I guess I'll let you all be the judges of that though. Job hunting in these crazy times has taught me a lot. So I figured this might be a good way to not only share some of that knowledge with others, but also continue learning everything I can by talking to people who are at the forefront of the games industry job market. So with that in mind, thanks for listening to this first intro episode of the Game Industry Job Hunt Podcast. Going forward, you can expect unscripted conversations with people that hold real actionable knowledge on how we can all improve our job hunting skills and by extension, hopefully, our chances of finding our next adventure as soon as possible. It doesn't matter what discipline you're in, or whether you're an industry vet or just trying to get your foot in the door. Heck, it might not even matter if you're looking for a job in the video games industry or another industry. Most of the things we learn will still be transferable to other industries. In the next few episodes alone, I'll be talking to Dylan Lee, a career coach specializing in helping gaming clients get the most out of their job search, Armand Giovanni, a senior games recruiter for Tencent, and Christina Drake, who is a recruiter with Ghost Punch Games, the founder of Moms in Gaming, and a Women in Games ambassador, just to name a few. I hope you'll follow the show on your podcast app of choice and join along as I bring together some of the most knowledgeable voices in the games industry job market to help me and you optimize our game industry job hunt. Also, make sure to visit GameIndustryJobHunt.com for links to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always looking to grow my network after all, as well as a growing list of resources that I found helpful and that you may find helpful too. With that, thanks for listening. Keep pushing, and we'll get through this together.